dispatch. Engine arrived on scene of a multi-family two-story residential structure of non-combustible construction. We have smoke showing from the Alpha side and moving towards the surface of the wall. It's at 8 miles. We'll be advised during the section.
My name is Stephen Cantu, Battalion Chief with Sarasota County Fire Department. Today we're going to be covering some information related to our transition to the new 800 megahertz radio system. That system is slated to go in service in early February. And during that transition period, there's going to be some safety related issues that you need to be aware of as users of the radio system. You know, I'd like to start off talking a little bit about why did we change why are we changing radio systems? The current system that we have in place has been in service for over 20 years, and it's reached the end of its serviceable life. That's an issue with parts, that sort of thing, maintenance. As you know, a lot of technology has changed in that 20-year period, and so we needed to update. The current radio system that has been put in utilizes latest technology, but allows it to be integrated with other radio systems and other radio manufacturers' products, so you're not tied to a single manufacturer of radio. It also offers versatility that allows to communicate more effectively with other counties and eventually roam on to some systems and talk back to the Sarasota 911 center. We've got more towers. We also have access to towers in Manatee County that expand our radio coverage and will provide us with better outside radio coverage and also better in-building coverage. Although it should be kept in mind, it's not going to solve every in-building coverage issue, and we still may experience problems with that'll need to be dealt with on a case-by-case scenario. You know, there are also some advantages and emergency procedures that we're going to realize when we transition. We've all been aware, anyone that's been using the radio system knows that there are a couple of failures that we can experience, like site trunking and fail soft, that require you to do some actions. In the new system, all that is automated and in the background, so it's easier for the users whenever those system emergencies are experienced. I'd like to also talk a little bit about increased interoperability. We made some changes in the talk groups that allow us to be a little bit more interoperable. It improves the ability to find and navigate channels when you're providing mutual aid to Manatee County. And also, if Manatee County units are coming to Sarasota County to assist, they're similar in nature, and so it's going to be easier for them to navigate and find the appropriate channels. It also lays a foundation for future changes to dispatch procedures, like use of a single dispatch channel as opposed to the 4 that we use now. That's not something that's happening in the near term. That's going to be a more medium-term project to implement that. But this does lay that groundwork for those changes in the dispatch process. So another set of advantages that this brings is ease of use and safety. The talk group names agree with the channel selector. So whenever you look at your channel selector on the top of your radio, your new TAC 2 channel will correspond with channel 2. If you go to TAC 7, it's going to agree with channel number 7. So there is a direct correlation with the name and the channel selector. Piece of this was necessary because the layout of the new system, the way the talk groups were created and needed to be put in the radios, we had to orient those talk groups horizontally rather than vertically. And so it seemed like it was more confusing to maintain the old names. And so that is one of the things that you will see in the new system, is that the talk group names have been renamed. You'll need to be familiar with that in order to navigate it effectively. One advantage that these changes are going to bring is that now when you almost entirely all your firefighting operations, you only need to operate the channel selector knob. You won't need to use the 3 position switch, the ABC switch, unless you're talking to Manatee County, or you are utilizing your portable radio to talk to a med channel. And another advantage that these changes bring is that there is when you're using the DVRS or the Mobex repeaters that are in the battalion vehicles, that you will now get a tone that will let you know that you're out of range, and that was not a possibility in the old system. And so that's a significant enhancement to safety. So now you will know when you try to transmit if that transmission is going to go through or not. So, as far as training, the important things that we need to be aware of is that when we do the cutover process, we're going to be moving from our old channels and moving up into that new Zone A. And you need to be familiar with the talk group layout, what channels that you're going to be operating on a daily basis. And then you need to know also during that cutover period, there's a risk that if you hit the home button or you mess with you actuate the 3 position switch, the ABC switch, that you could actually end up back in the old system. And once we cut over, there's not going to be anyone monitoring those channels. So there is some danger that you could end up in a place where you're not able to talk to someone. So you need to know how to navigate your way back, and ideally you really need to know how to navigate your way back in a non-visual environment. So part of the training that we're going to cover and the skills that we're going to cover this month or in December will be reviewing that process, so making sure that you're familiar with the talk groups and the layout, making sure that you're aware of the dangers of during that cutover process, because as soon as we do the second touch to the radios, a lot of that will go away. A lot of the power off, the power off behavior will go back to how we've always had it in the past. It'll also, the ABC switch will act more similar, and the home will act more similar to how we've had it in the past. But until those radios are reprogrammed, there's going to be a risk that that's increased during that period. So we just want you to be aware of that and know how to deal with that. Okay, one of the first things that I'd like to cover is going to be the layout of the new fire department channels that are going to be in the new system. In the old system, you know that you had dispatch 1 through 4, command 1 through 4, and TAC 1 through 4. And to utilize those, you needed to use your channel selector, and you also needed to use your 3 position switch. So you had 2 actions that needed to occur in order to navigate through the normal 12 channels you use day in and day out. In the new system, that's not the case. They are horizontally oriented. So everything is in new Zone A. You'll look at that, and at first it's going to seem, it's different. It may seem a little confusing, but it's actually a pretty simple concept. You'll see fire dispatch is channel 1, and you'll also see that is replicated at channel 16. And there are mirrors of each other. They're the same talk group. Basically, this is a placeholder for future operations, for some transitional work in the system for the future, concerning maybe transitioning to a 1 dispatch channel for dispatching units out to events. In the meantime, until that change takes place, that's going to serve as a placeholder and kind of a safety net, so that if you are in Zone 1 and you're not sure where you need to be, or you are confused and you need to get to talk to someone, you know that if you get to Zone A and you go to either end of the, scroll your channel selector knob one way or another, you're going to reach a dispatcher. And they can assist you in finding that right channel, or if you have an emergency, they're going to be able to assist you in getting the assistance that you need. The other thing to keep in mind with this is that the channel names correspond with the channel selector, the actual channel that it's on. So TAC 2 is going to be channel 2. TAC 7 is going to be channel 7. So there was some concern that if we kept the old talk group names, that there was going to be some confusion, because if we grouped them regionally, you would possibly have TAC 1 on channel 2 or channel 3, or TAC 4 be on channel 12, and that just it seemed like that was going to be more confusing. So by changing the names, if you're assigned to TAC 9, you know that you scroll your radio to channel 9, and that's where it's going to be located at. So in that respect, I think it's a little simpler. Also, for fireground operations, you're not having to operate the three position switch, the ABC switch that we have in the past. That a little simpler. I know that can sometimes be an issue with gloved hands. So now all we need to do is move the channel selector in order to move to our normal operating channels. Gets a little more complicated whenever you start looking at Mobex channels and things like that, but we'll cover that in another skill. So one of the issues that's going to rise with this is during cutover. So when we do the cutover process, we still have the old system in our radios. And with that old system in the radios, it causes an issue with the 3-position switch. So if we are, and it's going to be very important that until your radio is reprogrammed, that you avoid, and I'll repeat this, that you avoid use of the 3-position switch. Do not utilize the ABC switch or the home button during that transition period. It's going to cause you to end up in the old system if you do that. And then it's going to require you to navigate your way back. So it's going to be really important that you familiarize yourself. In case that happens, you need to know how to get back to the new system. It's a pretty simple process in order to accomplish that, but you can avoid that if you don't touch those systems. Now, we are going to try to reprogram those radios as quickly as we possibly can after cutover. I really hope that we're going to be able to start that process at a week after cutover. And so maybe we only have to deal with this issue for a week or so, and then it's back to sort of normal operation for the ABC switch and the home buttons. So it's going to be for a minimal amount of time, but during that time period, you do need to be confident in how to accomplish that. So to accomplish that, you need to practice. To practice that, I would say, use move your ABC switch and get into the old system and be able to be confident that you can navigate up into that new zone A, which on most of our 6,000 portables, our APX 6000 portable, which is what everyone carries other than the second portable that the battalion chief has, that's going to be 6 zone ups in order to accomplish that. You can use zone down, but it's going to be more depressions of that. The quickest and easiest is going to be zone up 6 times to get to zone A. Once you are at zone A, you can, either listen for the channel announcement, and it will tell you what channel you are on, and then you can scroll your channel selector to the appropriate one, or you can elect to activate the 3-position switch, zone up 6 times, and then move your channel selector one end or the other, and then start counting clicks. You do have the advantage that you have voice announcements, so it will tell you what channel or what talk group that you're on. So that's a great assistance in low visibility environment, but on the off chance that there was some issue with that and you couldn't hear the voice announcement, you should be familiar on how to find those talk groups without those advantages. Another issue that we've considered that could potentially occur is an issue with your menu button, where the menu button is, maybe you bump it in trying to navigate, and it's the zone up selection is not available to you. And so we've considered ways in which you can deal with this in a low visibility environment and with gloved hands. And the best option that we've come up with is cycle the power on the radio, cut it off and cut it back on. That will bring your zone up menu button back to the expected place, which is right above the one dot button on the below the face of the radio. And then you depress that 6 times, get up to zone A, and then scroll to the appropriate talk group that's been assigned for whatever event that you're working on. Worst case, if you can't find that, you make sure you're in zone A and you scroll one way or another to FD dispatch, and you'll be able to raise a dispatcher at that location. All right, so one of the concerns is, okay, we're in the new system, and say you're assigned to TAC2N, and TAC2N is going to be basically the replacement for Fire Dispatch 1. So if you were previously assigned to Fire Dispatch 1, this is going to be your normal operating channel. When you go to an event, all you're going to need to do is channel select over. That would be your next assigned TAC channel for multi-unit events. And assuming that we made a mistake and went to our old habit of touching the ABC, we scroll this, all of a sudden we find ourselves, or we went to C, thinking we're going to go to TAC 3. Well, now we're in the old system. And that's not where we need to be. After cutover, nobody's going to be monitoring that. So we've got a couple options on this. I would kick it down to old A, and then you've got the one dot button here, zone up 6 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now we're at TAC 3. Now, understand you can scroll and find your channel. Worst case scenario, if you don't know where you're supposed to be, or you are not able to raise someone, you can scroll it all the way to one FD dispatch, or you scroll it all the way to the other, and you can talk to Fire Dispatch at one of those 2 channels. Same talk group. So that's kind of your safety net. All right, so another way that this can potentially, that we can potentially encounter an issue is if you were to accidentally touch one of the menu buttons here. So if we touch this, you'll notice that the menu items change. And say we accidentally touch this a couple times or whatever, and it got off of zone up or zone down. The issue, when you go to press this one dot button to change your zone, you may hear beeps, but the cue that you should really internalize here is that I don't hear the channel announcement or the zone announcement changing. The voice prompts are not there. That tells me that I'm not on zone up. So if I hear that, I hear it changing, then I know that I'm in the right spot. So the question becomes, what do we do? Because in a low visibility environment, you may not be able to find that, right? You may not be able to see it. And so without a voice announcement telling you what that is, you got maybe a potential option on this is, so maybe I've got this and I'm trying to change it, but it just keeps bonking, or I don't hear channel announcements changing. If you power cycle your radio and then you cut it back on, when it comes back, your zone up is in the right location where you expect it to be, which is the one dot button. So at this point, we would be able to,
Zone Delta.
and I know, okay, zone delta, I know that's above, so I know I need to go back down to A. And once I'm in zone A,
Zone Alpha. Fire TAC 5.
now I can change it
Fire TAC 6.
and listen for the voice announcement to
Fire
find the
TAC
right
7.
location.